Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to take a look at semantic cache and why you might need it in your projects. So first of all, let's be honest here. LLMs are great, but they can be expensive and slow. Every time we ask an LLM a question, usually we pay for that and it takes time to get a response. And there are use cases where people are asking the same or similar questions over and over again. So it doesn't make sense to call the LLM every time. And it's better to kind of cache the initial response and then reuse that response every single time there is a question similar to what we just cached. And that is semantic cache. As you can see here in this diagram, we have a user who asks LLM a question. Then we first check semantic cache, and for that we'll use Azure Managed Redis. And if there is a cache hit, if there is an answer already provided previously to that question, well, we return the cached response and we don't go to the LLM. And this is fast and extremely performant. And we're done. Otherwise, we call the LLM, we store the response in cache and return the response. And the next time, since we already stored that response, next time a user asks a similar question, well, we're not going to be using the LLM again, we're going to use the cache. And there are a lot of use cases where you might use it. For example, frequently asked questions. Let's say you have a website and usually people are asking the same questions based on your business. If you're online store, chances are people will be asking you about delivery times, policies, and stuff like that. If you are building an agent or a chatbot that is like, for example, Monopoly expert or Texas Hold'em expert, chances are you get the similar questions over and over again because the game is not changing, the rules are not changing, they're static, and chances are that the questions will be pretty redundant most of the time. Let's now see how we can implement it using Azure Managed Redis, Microsoft Foundry, and some code. For that, we need to have Microsoft Foundry project and Azure Managed Redis provisioned. And one thing to note here is that when you start provisioning this, make sure that you have this module provisioned as well. Otherwise, this won't work. And I'll show you how you can do that. So if you go here, create Azure Managed Redis instance, and you go to Advanced, on Modules, choose Redis Search, choose Enterprise, and you are done. Let's go to Microsoft Foundry now. We go to Build, and this is the agent that we will be using for this demo. It's basically a customer support assistant for fictitious online bicycle store. Now, let's take a look at the code. We have some basic configuration here. So we have the Foundry endpoint, we have OpenAI endpoint, and in here, we are using Azure Managed Redis service. If we don't have an endpoint for Azure Managed Redis, it will automatically spin up a container with Redis in it. We create the agent with the instructions, we start a session, then here is the Redis vector setup. We provide index name, we provide similarity threshold. Basically, anything above this threshold will be returned as a semantic match. Here we create the vector, and then here's where the magic happens. So here's our ask question method. We provide the question from the user, we embed the question, and then perform semantic search here. So if there is a match higher than the threshold, we simply return that there is a cache hit and return the response. Otherwise, if there is a cache miss, we ask the LLM this question, we return the response, and we store it in the cache, and we return cache miss. Here are the questions that we'll be asking in this application. So 3 questions, and then round 2 is 3 questions again, which are semantically the same to the first ones. That's it. Let's see that in action now. Okay, we connected to Azure Managed Redis. We ask the question. As you see, it takes time because this is hitting the LLM. Same again. But then, as you can see, next 4 questions basically returned extremely fast because there was a cache hit. So the first 2, they were slow because we were asking the LLM since we didn't have a cache hit. Basically, we didn't have an answer to the user's question that was inside Redis. So we call the LLM and we store the answer as well as the vector. And then question 3 onward, we are having cache hits. And that's why, as you saw, we saw the answers instantaneously because we didn't have to call the LLM, wait for a response. And now let's take a look at the Redis instance through the CLI and see what we have in there. First, let's see what modules we have. This is important. You need to see this, otherwise this whole thing won't work. Then let's see what we have here. So we have 2 entries, as you saw already. This one and this one were cached, so 2 entries. And then let's see what we have in this entry, for example. And yes, here is the vector, the embedding, and here is the answer basically that we cached. And if we take a look at the response here, you can see that it's exactly the same thing. Remember how slow it was initially? Let's run this application again. And right now everything will be cached already. So let's see how fast the responses are. Okay, we're connected to Redis and you see how fast that was. That's it, folks. I really hope this video was useful and gave you some ideas. So whenever you have a use case that might benefit from this, remember me, remember this video. And yeah, if you found this video useful, like it, subscribe to the channel, share the video with friends, colleagues, or the world, and I'll see you next time.